Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Thursday, November 14th, 2024. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Thursday, everyone. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Inside day right now, narrow range, just 21.25 points of range at the moment. That's 30% of average. We have a very narrow 5-day developing range right now, which is currently 30% of average range and a total range of 66.5 points. This is just over these 5 days here. You could probably add the 6th day and still be very narrow as well. So very compressed right here. Core PPI and PPI data out in line with expectations. Initial jobless claims coming in at 217K versus a 224K estimate. And Fed Chair Powell is due to speak at 2 p.m. Central Time. So a bit of a holding pattern here ahead of Fed Chair Powell late this afternoon. At the moment, the current idea for today is very similar to the last several days. It's fading the edges until proven otherwise, watching the previous session's high and low, and looking to fade those edges back into the current day's range, perhaps the current day's midpoint. And at some point here, we may get a solid breakout opportunity from the 5-day narrow range. Given the uptrend and given the fact that we are building this range at the current highs here, any downside break could be short-lived. It could be an opportunity to pick it up cheaper and then look for a continuation to the upside, similar to what we've seen back here, down then back up. That's how this market's played out here recently, given the uptrending price action overall. So building energy right now and holding at the highs of the recent rally. Again, a 5-day compression here could get us somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 to 200 points of range up ahead on an expansion opportunity. 200 points would be a pretty solid move, and it could be in a couple of directions. Again, if we were to fall down into 5,800 for 200 points, that could be a great opportunity to pick it up at 58 for a push and continuation towards 62 down the way. Even if we were to get some sort of failed low and rejection, it could be a nice 200-point move to the upside. So we'll see how price responds out of this range. Until then, range bound until proven otherwise. Looking at the NQ here, NQ right now with a 100-point range for the day. 100 points, that's 32% of ADR, and then you have a 5-day compression that's developing, that's also 30% of average range. 286 points total right there on that compression. Very similar to the ES here, fade the edges right now with an upward bias at the moment. At some point we could see a breakout move, and that breakout could be somewhere in the 700 to 800 point range once we do see expansion. And again, that would be over the course of 1 to 5 days. But a compression right now developing. You can see each of these days kind of finishing almost doji-like or finishing near the midpoint of the session. So if we get down here near the previous session's low, it's an opportunity to fade it back to the midpoint of the day. If we get up here near the previous session's high, an opportunity to fade it back to the midpoint of the day. So again, fade the edges until proven otherwise. Looking at the YM. The YM also has a narrow range that's developed over the last several days. Right now, 232 points of range for the day. Very compressed on that end. And we can bring this up to a 6-day compression here for the YM. This one right now trading 44% of average range and 819 points over the last 6 days. That's a buildup of energy here that could get us, again, easily 1,250 to 1,500 points of range up ahead once we're ready to see expansion. Inside day at the moment, but we could see a test at the extremes. If we test the previous session's high, it could be an opportunity to fade it back in for a short-term rotation. If we test the previous session's low at 897 or 900, that could be an opportunity to fade it back up. So fade the edges until proven otherwise. Here's a look at crude oil. Crude right now up by 1%. 67's a major area of support. We've seen that evidence to that already. That's yesterday's low, 66.94. And right when it dropped into that level, it was almost an immediate response. It dropped for an hour into that zone from 68 down to 67. And in the very next hour, it was a failed new low outside hour back up as it rallied from below 67 to above 68 in the very next hour. So it was a very quick reaction and turnaround. 67 clear support. We've seen it react here recently there. We've seen it react on this line multiple times here, and we even seen the trap and reversal back in September. So a lot of reactions to 67s here recently. This could lead to a little bit of a bounce or a further bounce than what we're already seeing. Again, still downtrending price action, still not likely to bust through 72.40 at any time soon, and we're still working our way modestly lower and doing so at a kind of quiet pace. So the current range, when it comes down to it, has been about 72.40 down to 67s. That's your current trading range right now. Do we get a move all the way back up to 72s here? And if so, it could be an opportunity to drop this thing back down. Still, again, got to be cautious on the upside with crude oil, especially given the current bearish seasonality. Overall, we could still be working our way down towards 66 and maybe even into 64s up ahead. Gold futures right now, gold currently down about 0.8%. New lows today, 25.41. Something we talked about here over the last couple of days is how this thing still hasn't found a strong low. Now, there was a strong intraday low that developed here today, right around the 3-4 o'clock a.m. time zone there, or time frame, and that led to a nice little recovery here. It still isn't a super strong low from a daily chart perspective, but it does give back all of the gains from this breakout day right there. So that breakout, we had that compression, we had this major breakout move, and that led to new highs, and then we've given it all back. So all the way back to 25.50 and even below, it's wiped it all out. At some point here, we could develop a strong low. That strong low could get us back up, and we could develop a large trading range. So from an intraday perspective, decent intraday low, still trending down overall though, and like we mentioned before, to reject the previous quarter's high, to reject the previous quarter's close, you could be working your way down to the previous quarter's midpoint. That could be the target down below. That's around the 25 level. Let's see, this level right here, 25.20. So we could still be working our way down toward that zone overall. Now Bitcoin up 1.6% here today. Threw off a little bit of a tail in the previous session, but continues to maintain a higher high and higher low structure. Very, very bullish. It did reach our 92,285 target and got there very quickly. We mentioned this large key range here before. That key range right there suggested a 92,285 target down the road. We mentioned that would be a very easy, doable Q4 target. And we got there early in Q4. I mean, halfway into Q4, we're already at that target. How much pullback do we get? Do we get ourselves a new key range? Mentioned that this is an impulse rally that's developing right now. We haven't quite nailed down the strong high just yet. But if we did form a strong high, if yesterday becomes a strong high, then we could be looking at a pullback to the midpoint, and that midpoint could give us a new key range. Right now, we're still iffy on any kind of pullback at the moment. But if we did get a key range midpoint, that would give us a new upside target, and it's now pushing beyond the 114 we talked about before. The upside target would be at 121 now. So 129.90, is that what that level was? 129.90. So just call it 121K as an upside target based off the current impulse move this month. So that strong low, this big move to that high. If we were to come back to the midpoint of the month, that would give us a new key range, and we're looking at 121 now to the upside. So this is getting big right here with the way that this market could see additional upside up ahead. Very, very strong overall. Not quite confident that this is a strong enough high to get us a midpoint, but we're still clearly in the midst of the impulse rally. Looking at ETH, ETH up 2/3 of 1% right now. This one did put in a bit of a midpoint here, or a bit of a strong high, which could get us back to the midpoint. The midpoint would be 29.2680 if we were to get there based off the high a couple of days ago. That's a really strong impulsive move. That's a decent strong impulse high right at the 3400 key level. If we did pull back to that mid, we have ourselves a new large key range to work off of. That key range would take us to a high beyond 4300. So you're looking at 431860. 431860, which could be the next upside target up ahead. If we can get that midpoint, we're targeting 4300 plus as the next major upside target based off the key range. So we'll see how this plays out up ahead. But the midpoint right there would solidify a new key range. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out here heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.